Imagine that you're inside, safe from the storm raging outside, when a flash of lightning reveals something horrible in the darkness. The thunder roars, but it's not the only thing you hear. There are whispers in the wind, shadows that move on their own. Hi guys, welcome back to the channel. In today's video, we are going to dive deeper into 5 of the most disturbing thunderstorm horror stories. From terrifying accidents to unexplainable phenomena, these stories will make you think twice when the sky turns dark and the wind starts to howl. Script 1. The Phantom Lightning Strike, Venezuela. In one of the rainy evenings of summer 2009, in the deepest Venezuelan Andes, the small village of San Antonio de Mucuño was going through one of those situations that still makes its inhabitants shiver. It was a quiet evening. The sky was purple at the end, where the sun had disappeared behind the mountain. The villagers were getting ready for the night ahead when, all of a sudden, the voice of thunder appeared, announcing the beginning of the storm. As the storm came closer, it slowly became apparent that this was something entirely different. The wind started blowing unnaturally hard, and electrically charged air began to circle. Some felt an unexplainable sense of doom, a heavy uneasiness. Then a single bolt of lightning struck the ground just outside the village. The flash of lightning was so bright that it blinded the onlooker, and the thunderclap shook the ground. What really feared the villagers was the sound that followed it, a blood-curdling scream like nothing they had ever heard. Several villagers ran towards the place of incidents with flashlights and prayers, but when they arrived there, it was only a smoldering patch of earth. It was blackened, the smell of ozone clinging to it, and there was no sign that anybody had been there. Dazed and shaken, they searched the area and found nothing to explain either the scream or the lightning bolt. They were quite dazed. Over the course of several nights, unnatural events plagued the village. Some doors were swung open by themselves, though locked. Footsteps were heard along the streets, whispers, as if the wind was whispering, calling the names of some of the villagers or uttering. The village animals avoided the place where the lightning had struck, and some were so enraged that they must be chained. The village elders decided to take action. They appeared in the village square, performing traditional purifications against the evil creature with the aim of restoring peace in the community. They would light incense, chant their prayers, and sprinkle the ground with holy water. The disturbances finally stopped when the ritual was over. The footsteps stopped, whispers stopped. The air in the village returned to its usual warm humidity. However, that night, including the awful week after, remained long in their memory, and no one could explain what exactly had happened. 2. The Fatal Camping Trip, United States of America. In 2015, a group of 5 friends chose to dedicate a weekend camping in the outback Montana wilderness. It was on the second night of the adventure that they had to face a sudden, fierce thunderstorm. They huddled down in their tents with howling wind and lightning displays. It was supposed to be just another storm, but what was about to happen would haunt them forever. Above the forest, one of the campers, a young guy named Josh, was struck by the lightning bolt. His friends rushed for his aid, but were only to be late as Josh was gone. But that was not all. Things got far worse. After that, the survivors were greatly shocked by the merciless death of their friend. It was at this time that weird events started occurring with them. Their electronic gadgets that were in a shutdown mode powered themselves on and flashed static and weird images on the screen. The air around them became unnaturally cold, with a low moaning sound that all of them heard. They hiked as fast as they could back to civilization, fearing for their lives. Physically, when safe again, they were puzzled. They lost a good friend from that trip, and something about the storm felt not right. It felt like more than just a natural incident. Even today, they steer clear of thunderstorms, haunted by the memory of that fateful campout and an uneasy feeling that they just might have missed getting into something a lot worse than some lightning. 3. The Haunting of St. Elmo's Fire, United Kingdom SS. Waverley, a cargo ship, had been trying to make its way across heavy seas off the coast of Scotland in 1972. All of a sudden, the ship had to face a fierce thunderstorm. The captain of the ship had seen his fair share of storms around the block. The sky turned green, and by the minute, the waves started to grow in size and violence. As the storm intensified, the crew noticed a strange blue light flickering at the top of the ship's masts. This phenomenon bears the name of Saint Elmo's fire, named after a meteorological air or electrical discharge luminosity during a thunderstorm that takes the shape of a bluish glow over sharp objects, such as ship masts or aircraft wings. However, it did disturb the sight of people who would often take it as a certain omen by the sailors. What happened to the crew of SS Waverly even crossed that explanation. People heard voices, whispers on the wind that grew louder and more distinct as it drew closer to them. The ship's instruments became inactive. The compasses started spinning madly. Some even swore they could feel dark forms moving through the fog. After that, the storm began to subside, and in another instant, St. Elmo's fire was gone. The men were in shock, unable to account for what they saw and heard. When the ship reached the harbor, most of them refused to set foot upon another vessel ever after. The SS Waverly continued to sail for many more years. The fear of that storm remained with the men that all out upon the ocean is not to be understood. The day when statues wept, Italy. In the summer of 2004, a freaky and inexplicable phenomenon hit a small town in northern Italy. This small town was heavily populated with ancient churches full of religious statues. The storm came from nowhere during an afternoon and became very violent. As the booms of thunder became hard and rain poured down in sheets, what happened afterward was even stranger. Some statues at the main square of the town began to weep. Tears of blood fell from the statues, running down faces and coating stones, leaving trails that would wash away with rain. Despite the harsh weather, a crowd had gathered, staring both fascinated and terrorized at the weeping statues. The priest of the town was called onto the scene to offer prayers. Even he was amazed. The rain continued for hours, and the statues wept for long too, until it stopped. When the rain stopped, the tears did too, as if nothing odd had happened. Experts were called over to look into the matter, and they also found no explanation for the phenomenon. The statues showed no signs of weeping, and the blood-like substance was never identified. It divided the town in two, with some thinking it was a sign, a warning or message from God, and others called it weird but natural. But for those who had been there that day, the memories of the weeping statues were chilling. It shows that even the most revered symbols of peace and faith may become a part of something far more terrifying. 5. The Whispering Storm, Australia. Out in Western Australia, in the deserted area of Wittenoom, thunderstorms are almost as common as they can be dangerous. The people who live out there know fierce storms that barrel across the huge, barren landscape. But over the summer of 1987, another kind of storm blasted through this hamlet of Wittenoom. It was on one of those summer evenings when the atmosphere was hot and heavy, and when a storm threatened on the far horizon. The villagers prepared in their respective ways, storming loose objects, driving their beasts indoors, and at last taking shelter indoors themselves. Just as the first heavy raindrops that could be heard to fall, the gale began to rise, howling along the empty streets and whistling through the panes. But this was no such storm. As louder roars of wind cut through, it began to bear strange sounds. At first more faint, almost like the hum of a radio from far away. But with the height of the storm, those sounds got more clear, more distinct. Others heard voices, those of the loved ones, living and dead, some long gone. The voices were commanding, insistent, and ominous with warning. One woman named Martha actually claimed to have heard her dead husband's voice calling to her from the yard. She knew that consciously this couldn't be, but the sound was there, with a clarity that forced her to open the door and step out into the storm. The other resident was Jack. His son's voice, who had gone to the city years ago, came across telling him to leave the house and to get out before it was too late. He sat in his chair with his shotgun ready, like he really expected something or someone to bust through that door any moment. The storm seethed on into the night, whispers rising in volume with their urgency and fear. Some townsfolk said voices had begun to taunt them, chanting strange phrases or predictions of doom, or telling secrets no person could have ever known. The storms finally broke in the early morning hours, and it left the town confused. After that, the whispers stopped. People really did not know what had happened. They told one another, and most realized they had all caught whispers of the same thing. The voices in the wind, the storm almost alive. The people of Vietnam still shiver in their hearts as memories of the whispering storm flood back. Long since past, the storm left its legacy behind. A reminder that sometimes forces of nature can tap into something much darker and mysterious than we shall ever understand. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, please like, share, and subscribe to the channel for more creepy stories. Which of these tales gave you chill? Let us know. Until next time, stay curious, stay safe, and remember, sometimes nature contains mysteries within it that can never be explained and understood.